Hey guys, this is Larry Dean from Triton and also the band Emanate, and you are listening, rocking out to the Covenant Metal Show.
Hey guys, I am here with Larry Dean from Triton, guitarist, vocalist, keyboardist, multi-instrumentalist. Larry, thanks for being on the show, man. Appreciate it.
And Dave, it's so cool to be on with you, man. I've been watching some of your episodes, and I watched your deal with John, and I loved it. And man, I just thank the Lord for you, bro, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, let's get down to the nitty gritty, man. Triton, what year did you guys form? You guys, well, first and foremost, for people who don't know the band, you guys been around for quite a while since like the late 80s, and you guys have been compared to Rush, which is really, really cool. You guys are known mainly as a progressive, hard rock band with a little bit of glam metal thrown in. But how did you guys form and when?
Bro, it was actually, I'd say, like a lot of stuff God does, the incubation period started like actually in like 79, 80.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then my original bass player, keyboardist, he was also a singer too. He he and I couldn't keep a drummer in the band, uh, and there's lots of ins and outs with that. We were young, and it was a little bit of a challenge to find drummers that were as serious and focused as we wanted to be at that age. It's like, man, when you're young, it's like, I graduated high school at 17, so like 17, 18, 19. Then I received the Lord at 18. And then I would say probably by like 82, 83, we had all moved into this warehouse and theater dressed the stage and just started building our equipment and writing songs. John and I, my original partner, we just said, we love doing covers, but if we really want to make it in the music biz, we're not going to by playing other people's music. So let's start writing our own stuff. And so
Right.
we did. And then I would say like 86 is when we did 1986 is when we did the first recordings that ultimately wound up becoming Celestial Messenger.
Right.
And then John said, "Hey, I'm going to step off," and I understood that, but normally I'd have freaked out, but I had spent quite a few years in the Lord by then, and it's like, man, I just knew God was going to provide for us, and God brought Steve in, and then we had a really serious, talented drummer, Scotty Blackman, who was on the first album, and man, we just locked in. I would say like 83, 84. And then recorded the first session for Celestial 86. Then John stepped off. Then Steve came in. And then REX Music signed us.
Mm-hmm.
And we wrote It's War and redid Nowhere to Run. And I maybe added another tune too. I can't remember. But I know for sure Rip Van Winkle was the first song recorded for Celestial. And then it was, I think, 3 sessions actually. But so long way to answer your question, bro. It was like mid to late 80s when we kind of got off the ground.
Okay. Wow. And excuse me. And speaking of Celestial Messenger, now, yeah, it was originally released in 1987. It was reworked for release by REX Records, and then in 2000, it was re-released, and it features 3 remastered tracks as well as material from an earlier demo. What were those songs, and how did it come about to be re-released, and you guys come up with the idea to throw some bonus stuff on there?
So quite honestly, I want to give all that credit to Matt Hunt. Matt is just a true metal music connoisseur, and from Retroactive Records. And
Right.
um, he just wants to hear everything. In fact, we're working on a Lost Tracks album of Tritans. So I'm trying to get demos and stuff like that will have Rob Caldwell remaster. But that was Matt's idea. And I'm like, yeah, man, we got some cool stuff. You know, we always recorded in pretty good studios. Even when we did some stuff ourselves, we had a friend of ours, Tony Denny's, that helped us do some stuff. And then when we were demoing stuff prior to getting signed by RAX, you know, we were in a number of studios over the years, which was really good for us to learn just studio vibe. You know, playing live is one thing, but in the studio, it's you know, it's a whole different animal. The songs on there, I'm pretty sure it was "To Be Free" and "The Grinch" was on there, and I'm struggling to remember what the third one was, because I get crossed up with the newest reissue, which had I think 2 or 3 other songs on there. But I know it was "To Be Free" and "The Grinch," and I'm scrambling my brain trying to remember. You think I would know this stuff,
because
right?
there was the newest one. That's the gold disc edition.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking,
because I've got like a cheat sheet down here with me, and I got notes and whatnot on here.
Okay, I'm looking at my CDs here, and I don't see Celestial up here. Otherwise, I pull it. But "To Be Free" was yeah. "To Be Free" and "The Grinch" I know was one, and I'm struggling to remember the third one, and also trying to remember any of the ones on the new reissue too. I think we had "Waiting Forever" was on there on the new one, and that was a Matt thing too. When we reissued Celestial with Matt and Silent Tiger, and Silent Tiger was too long to have any bonus tracks on there. That was his, hey man, let's throw some bonus tracks on there. You got any more? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, "In the Distance," which was about the Hurricane Camille, was on the new one. And a song called "Waiting Forever" that we recorded with Tony Denny's. Kind of a low budget thing, just kind of demoing really, actually. But yeah, we're going to keep working on that Lost Tracks album, because Matt loves it, and I don't mind getting the stuff out there. You know, most of the songs are written well, some of them not recorded really well, but the messaging is always the bottom line.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, your second album, Silent Tiger, that was released in 1990, and so you guys kind of, you know, tweaked your sound a little bit, went a little bit harder with the sound and the lyrics. Tell us about the decision to go in that direction on that album.
So there was, I think, Dave, 2 key factors with that. Like by that time, I was way into like all the guitar virtuosos, like Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore, Joe Satriani,
Steve Vai.
Steve Vai, yeah, all those monsters. And I wrote a little bit more. Like, remember Living Color? I think Vernon Reid was the guitarist. Living Color back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of had that vibe. Nuno Extreme. That was kind of really the direction songwriting wise I was heading in. So heading to more metal, more Blue Murder, Extreme, Nuno Betancourt.
Mm-hmm.
But then our drummer, who is, I mean, absolute prodigy, Scotty on the first album, just so amazing. And thankfully, I've played with amazing every album we've done. I've had amazing guys to do the music with.
Absolutely.
Just humbled, man, and so thankful. But so Scotty and his wife Robin, their son Kyle, we've all been friends. We were in ministry together for decades. But their son Kyle was born premature, and he needed to focus on work and his family. And he's like, man, I can't do the album. And I even went to him and I said, bro, you helped us write most of this material. Make Your Move was the only song that Scotty was not involved. In fact, we were playing like Beyond the Night and Take Cover at like on the back end of the Celestial Messenger tour. So Scotty wrote that stuff with us, and I said, "Man, bro," I said, you helped us write this. Would you be able to take some time and just record it? And it's not like, oh, you got to do this. It was like, bro, it's your stuff. So if you want to play on it, I know you got to be with your family and take care of your son and be with your wife and take care of this emergency and this trial. But it's your music, man. So if you want to play, dude, it's yours. But
right,
you let me know. And he goes, man, dude, I can't swing it. So we brought in Scotty's drum tech, who was also a very gifted drummer, Jim Dobbs. And I mean, Scotty Blackman is the most, maybe with the exception of PJ Bostic, Scotty, PJ are the two most Neil Peart-like drummers that I've ever heard. And so that's a tough act to follow, right?
Right.
And so we totally released Jim. The music was heading away from that sort of super proggy Rush type of style anyways. And Jim was more of a straight ahead slammer guy, which I was really cool with, because Steve and I were going to be progressive enough. He was like, a cross between Geddy Lee and Steve Harris, Steve was. And so, Jim could kind of maybe streamline our sound a little bit more, and he did. And those were the two main impetus. Jim was a more straight ahead drummer, and he roadied for Scotty for so long. He tech for him, so he knew his fills and everything. So I think Scotty was telling me not long ago that he had asked Jim. He goes, "Hey man, dude, you took all my parts." He's like, "Well, dude, they belonged in the songs, you know what I mean? And I've heard them so much, it was like there was no other way to play them, But I think that's the answer to that question.
Right on. So in the early 90s, after Silent Tiger, the release of that, you guys had disbanded, and was it just everybody had other things going on? Was it that kind of a thing, and you guys just kind of had to kind of put it up on the shelf?
Yeah, bro. I mean, honestly, Dave, to be really transparent with you, and I, you and I both want this interview to bless and help people and glorify the Lord.
Oh yeah.
My mom had got diagnosed with a really gnarly cancer in December of '90, and my wife and I were really going through a hard time trying to, figure our future out and reconcile some things in our own head and heart. And I just needed to lay it down for a little bit. I just lay it down and if God doesn't tell me to pick it up again, cool. But yeah, my mom's sickness, and then, Rhonda and me needed to get squared away on some things. And we did. My mom got to go be with the Lord in August of '91. And it was shortly after that we started the home group that would ultimately become the first church that we planted. And
yeah,
the Lord just said,
the Heart Maneuvers Christian Fellowship Church.
Right. That was the first church we planted. Yes, sir. Amen. And yeah, and it's funny too, because if you don't mind me injecting this in there, Dave.
Go ahead.
So that was in '92. The church was growing. Our home was exploding. We needed to start looking for a building that we could have services in, and lots of young musicians. And Scotty and his wife Robin were our lead associate pastors. So we were doing ministry together, still doing music together, like every Sunday. And Ron and I were talking, and it's like, well, we got connected to the Warehouse Church, Pastor Randy Shove, and we kind of mapped out the timeline of when the church would be commissioned fully to be doing like as a fully commissioned church, Sunday services, midweek service, the whole deal, Presbytery, board of directors, the whole deal, 501c3. And we thought, well, should we try to do like one album before we do that, it's like, and we got squared away in our stuff. Our family was growing. We were doing good. And Scotty and I lived together. So we started a band called Dean. And we had Chris Mosier on keyboards. I had Tony Velasquez from Sacred Warrior on drums for a while. And then Scotty, it was kind of between the two of them. And then Mark Robertson from, The Stand, Under Midnight, Brighton, This Train. He's one of our best friends. He was on bass and co-producing with me. And then Doc Boyer, I actually had a second guitarist, first time ever in doing bands. I had a second guitarist, and he was like legato tapper guy, and I was more staccato like Di Meola. So we fit well together. Bro, the record label was so excited about everybody who was involved in everything. It was the first time ever the label paid for us to go in the studio and start the album. And we did 3 tracks. One called Kill Zone, one called Let's Stay Here, and another song called Catch Every Tear, which was kind of a ballady, worshipy song. And we did the demo. It turned out so cool, man. It sounded a lot like Extreme 3 Sides. And
okay.
It was really cool. Then the Kill Zone song was kind of a Living Color meets Blue Murder type of song.
Oh wow.
And we got those done, and it was like good to go. And the Lord just spoke to our heart, and He said, "Lay it on the altar and start planting this church," because the church kept growing and growing and growing. And I just couldn't see doing the album and then not being able to back it up. Like, I didn't want to waste everybody's time. It's like, before we go any further, guys, let's just ice it. And I'm still trying to get a hold of those 2-inch tapes or a decent RDAC of those sessions, because the songs really, it turned out so good. Michelle Thompson from The Wayside, John's wife, sang harmony with me on Catch Every Tear. Keone sang with me on that. Mark had really done a great job producing the vocals and everything. And
are you looking? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, go ahead, man.
Are you guys? So you're looking to finally release those 3 tracks, or just as a demo, a one-off type thing, or are you wanting to write more music to those existing tracks and release it as a full length?
What a great question. And I hadn't thought about the second thing until you just mentioned it now, but that is something to think about, bro, for real. Honestly, Dave, what I think we'll do is, if I can get my hand on a decent master of those 3 songs, I have an old something that came right out of a mixing console, like daily roughs that we would take home every night when we were in the studio. I have an old copy of that, but I can't imagine what would have to happen to make it sound good, because it's on a cassette tape, and it's like a 30-year-old cassette tape almost.
You'd be surprised, what they can do. I mean, I had interviewed Les Carlson recently, and we were talking about old tracks from 1971 that were taken off of a Memorex tape cassette and put onto CD, cleaned up and everything, and it just sounds great. The technology today is just it's amazing, man.
Yeah. No, dude, you're right, because some of the stuff on the Celestial Messenger reissues, some of those songs were done that very way. For sure. But I think what we'd probably do is we would include those 3 songs into a TRYTAN Lost Tracks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think, and I quite honestly, the song Let's Stay Here, a very, very Nuno Extreme kind of a song. That is still on the drawing board for one of the next TRYTAN albums.
What's funny is when I hear you say Nuno, referring to Nuno Betancourt from Extreme, and you mentioned the album, 3 Sides. Well, one of their other albums, it's hard for me to say the name of it, but it's got a song on there called He-Man Woman Hater. And I mean, my goodness, man, just the guitar, the main riff of that song, it's like, holy smokes, man, really good stuff. Now in kind kind of fast forwarding in here a little bit. Now TRYTAN reformed in 2020, and you guys began work on the third album called Blood of Kings. And that was released actually in March of last year on Retroactive Records. And you had some real heavy hitters, man, join you on this on that album. You had Eric Gillette from Neil Morse Band, Jim Laverty from Barren Cross, the legendary Ray Parra from Sacred Warrior,
Yes,
and
sir.
John Elefante from Kansas Mastodon.
Yeah.
Man, how did that come about? I mean, that blows me away.
Yeah, man. So I mentioned Mark Robertson, who was playing bass and our music director in the Dean project that got tanked and shelved.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a band called Brighton that John and Dino Elefante produced back, I want to say 89, 90.
Okay.
Well, John Elefante heard Silent Tiger while they were just hanging out in the studio one day. They're just talking and about, because the one thing about John and Dino that I've always loved and respected immensely is the music was second. It was the integrity in the heart. And does someone really have a heart for the Lord, want to be sensitive to the Spirit, do the word and declare Christ, no holds barred. And that was John's thing. So I make a little assumption here, but I think John Elefante and Mark Robertson were sitting around like on a break at a session going, Mark must have said, "Hey, have you heard TRYTAN?" No. He played, John sampled like, quite a few of the songs. And John's like, "Well, can you get a hold of this guy?" He's like, "Dude, I call him right now if you want." And so they did. And so I met John back in, I want to say 90, 91. They might have even been doing demos for John's first solo album, Windows of Heaven. I can't remember that. That doesn't matter. But, Mark calls me. He's like, "Hey, man, John Elefante wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Dude, are you messing with me?" He's like, "No, I'm for real. I'm in the back of them right now." So I talked to John for a while, and we stayed in touch. And John contacted me about a year later. TRYTAN had stopped touring in like February, March of 91. My mom got sick. We were going through all that. And then John called me that year and said, "Hey, man," he goes, "I want to do an album with you. Can you fly out in February? Mike Lee was supposed to be in here, but we had to postpone. But I got a month. Let's fly out and do an album." He wanted to do like Rush meets Supertramp meets Blue Murder, And I'm like, and I couldn't because my mom was going through treatments, and I just couldn't swing it. I said, "Bro," I said, "this breaks my heart to tell you because I can't. Nothing would thrill me more to do an album with you, dude. You're like my hero vocalist. You're my number one, dude. But I can't do it. And as much as I would love to, I can't." He's like, "Dude, I respect that. No problem." So it had been years. We didn't really stay in, and we went on, and Ron and I went on and planted churches. And I remember calling John in 91 in August when my mom was like 4 days before she went to be with the Lord. I called John in the studio, and they were doing Petra Unseen Power. And I said, "Hey, John, I hate to bother you, but hey, I'm calling everyone I can." We didn't even have cell phones. I was on a payphone in the hospital. I'm like, "Hey, my mom really needs a miracle. I'm calling everyone I know that I have numbers for with me to pray for her." He goes, "Man, the guys in Petra and I and Dino are here. We're going to pray for her right now." So they prayed for my mom. And so years later, John lost his mom. I'm talking like 25 years later. And I just got a hold of him and said, "Hey, man, I wanted you to know I'm praying for your mom, before she got to go be with the Lord. And then when she got to go be with the Lord, I said, 'Hey, man, my heart's with you, bro. We're brothers in loss. And know that we're praying for you and your family, man.'" So then to fast forward to 2020, I just hit John up again. I said, "Hey, John," I said, "I'm doing another TRYTAN album, believe it or not. and I said, since Silent Tiger and we did By My Spirit, the Lord's convicted me. I need to do a praise and worship song on every album that TRYTAN does. And I said, my son and I developed this really cool Dream Theater type of feel for Revelation song. And I would love for you to sing on it, man. We didn't get to do the album back in 91 or whatever. And I would love for you to do it. He goes, send me the tracks, man. Ray Parra said the same thing. And I've known Ray a lot. I mean, I'm probably about as close with both of them now that we did Revelation song, and John and I got to spend a lot of time on the phone, talking about the vocals in the song. And we've actually talked, as brothers in the Lord on some really heavy, cool stuff in the Lord, and prayed for each other and stuff. But Ray, same thing. I said, hey man, bro, you want to sing on this song with me and John and Eric? He's like, yeah, dude, send me the track, man. I'm like, cool. And then Jim Laverty was the same thing. I said, hey Jim, I want to make some noise. I have a few key reasons why I want to do this. And I've always loved your style, kind of the Steve Harris of the Christian music. And in fact, when Steve Robinson redid the bass lines for Nowhere to Run on Celestial Messenger, I said, Steve, I want you to do these tracks, and I want you to think Steve Harris from Iron Maiden and Jim Laverty from Barren Cross. And wow. And he did, and he crushed it. It was very, very Jim Laverty, very Steve Harris. So all those guys signed on, and then Eric was the key. As great as everybody else was, being able to work with Eric on that thing, because I mean, Eric played all the keyboards, all the drums. Mm-hmm. He put the cherry on top of Revelation song. Him and John stuff at the end of Revelation song is they just blow the roof off of it. And of course, Ray in there having that Dio vibe, and I'm just kind of like back there doing some high harmonies and stuff like that. Like, go for it, boys. And they crushed it. But that's pretty much the answer on all that, man. Just a real grace, a real God storm with the friendships and the partnership with each one of those guys.
Oh, absolutely, man. And my next question would be, and my final question here is there any plans for future TRYTAN albums? And if you guys were given the chance to get together, reunite, and play, say, a festival somewhere, would you guys do that?
We would, Dave. That's probably one of the questions I get asked. I've probably been asked that more than any other question. It's complicated with TRYTAN. And I'm going to be down by Eric's in just a couple of weeks doing this new project called Emanate, which is going to be a praise meets metal album, kind of like Dream Theater meets Hillsongs. Chris Tomlin meets Joe Satriani. Oh, wow. Blue Murder meets Sonic Flood, a la I don't know what, but it's gonna be heavy. It's gonna be a praise and worship album. It's gonna be proggy. It's gonna be metal. It's gonna be that's gonna be the touring unit. Now to double back to the TRYTAN thing, I would love for there to be a dream scenario, Dave, where we could do, like in a summer festival tour, get together, rehearse, work the songs out. I think about it all the time. How would we do that? With Eric playing drums and keyboards. And I've got a few scenarios worked out, but the main thing would be, because not as much for myself per se, but like Eric and Jim, they would need, like, I'd need to be able to pay them. It couldn't be like, we did it in the old days. Like, yeah, let's hop in the van and drive to Milwaukee, or drop in the van and drive to DC. You know what I mean? It's like something that Ted Kirkpatrick taught me. He, by the way, Ted, John Thompson, JJT, Ted Kirkpatrick, and those two guys especially really kind of, and Ray Parra, really kind of mentored me, because I've been out of the music biz for 30 years. But something that Ted said is, I said, dude, are you touring? He goes, Lair, I don't tour unless I can really take care of my guys. And when he said that, man, I had a witness in my spirit. I don't want to over spiritualize nothing, but because Ted's always worked with, top shelf guys, Les Carlson, Bruce Franklin. He's never had anything but first tier guys,
Right.
And so he has always taken care of them. And I would want to I would do that same program with Triton. I would love some European promoter or some guy in, Central or South America say, hey man, we want to pay you guys X amount of dollars to come on down and do some shows, or, I would have to be able to take care of these guys, man. And it's not that they even have said that. That's the check in my heart. So the Emanate project,
it's the right thing to do. It really is.
Thanks, man. Amen, bro. Amen. So the Emanate project is the one that I could see. It won't be as signature as Triton. It won't be as signature as Triton. So it's going to have more latitude where I'll be able to do, because it's a praise and worship album, I'll be able to, go live and not do a song exactly like it is on the album. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where with Triton, man, I would, especially because of the Rush connection, that's the one thing. If anybody's seen Rush live, it's like it was the album or better. You know what I mean? Right. Their performance, the sound, the components, there was nothing ever compromised. And in fact, they were very careful, as Triton has been on the first two albums, especially. Mm-hmm. We've been very careful to not write or record something that we couldn't do live. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question well, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And Larry, I thank you so much for being on the show, brother, and taking time out to talk to me and learning the history of Triton. And man, God bless you. God bless your ministry, your family, and your endeavors, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. And I appreciate you so much as well. I'm not just blowing sunshine up your kilt. I really appreciate you guys. And the work that you do is so important. It takes us next level. It puts us more accessible to people. And we appreciate that. Man, I hope if anyone, can I take like a minute and break something down real quick?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So I hope if anyone doesn't know the Lord, that they would really be serious about, what Triton and Bloodgood and Les Carlson and Sacred Warrior and Deny the Fallen and White Cross and all these Barren Cross, all these guys are proclaiming. It's like, man, heaven is coming quick. We're all going to stand before God, and people need to realize that God sent his son to suffer for us, to pay the price for our sin. I'm the biggest sinner I know, but we've got to love people enough to tell them that, man, if we go before the Lord and our sins are not forgiven and washed away through faith in Christ, we are doomed to an eternity of pain and torment. And the Lord doesn't want that. He's not willing that any perish. And a lot of people, Dave, as you know, they believe, but they've never received what they believe. Right. And so we've got to challenge people, man, do you own it? Have you turned your life over to the Lord? Has his love and grace transformed you? Because if the grace that you think you have is unable to change you, it's not able to save you, because it's saving grace and life-changing grace.
And you got to live out your faith.
That's it, bro. Mm-hmm. And finally, I just want to challenge artists to be clear and powerful and effective in their sharing Christ in their concerts, on their albums. We can do great albums, but when you've got 1,000 people or 500 people or 100 people in front of you, challenge them. Man, where are you at with the Lord? Eternity is coming fast. And our job is to get people ready to proclaim Christ, to talk about the doom is on each one of us who don't have Christ, and help people make that decision to receive Christ. Thank you, brother.
Amen. You nailed it, man. Thank you again, Larry. And I appreciate it. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you, Dave.